Election results are coming in. Who is going to win, Trump or Biden? We'll discuss that with our special guest, plus a whole lot more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to a special edition of the 13-minute news hour. I know we've been looking at results all night long. I wanted to give some time for Fox or whoever you're watching to start getting the results in. A lot of it is gone as expected. There are some surprises, and we're going to discuss that. I've got a special guest with me tonight. He is a good friend of mine. I met him probably 20 years ago at a conference, and there's always those people that kind of stand out where you go, whoa, that guy's kind of smart. And we've kept in touch ever since. Is Rod D. Martin. He is tech entrepreneur. He's on the board of the Southern Baptist. He is just a political guru. Rod, thanks for joining us this evening.
It's great to be here, Bobby. Thank you.
All right, so what are you seeing out there? What has struck you so far as what's been coming in?
Well, obviously, there are a few things we need to win, and the night is far from over. It's actually a relatively early evening. It's only 10:30 here in Central Time. But what is striking is, first of all, a couple things. The difference between Joe Biden's margin of victory in a county like Miami-Dade in Florida versus Hillary Clinton's is just remarkable. Hillary won Miami-Dade County by about 30 points. Joe Biden is winning it by about 9. The number of non-white Floridians that have voted for Donald Trump has gone up dramatically in 4 years. So the entire narrative that Trump is a racist and everybody's going to punish him for that is just completely falling apart, first of all. Second, the narrative that demography is destiny, which is just an inherently racist thing to say. This idea that people are a voting bloc entirely based on superficial measures of identity, melanin count determines beliefs. This is just straight out of the Jim Crow era. It is shocking that Americans would put up with that for 10 seconds, and Democrats have been getting away with it for 20 years. It's falling apart in Florida tonight, but not just in Florida, also in Georgia, where we're seeing non-Cuban Hispanics also moving toward Trump in some pretty reasonable numbers. I think we're going to carry Georgia pretty well. North Carolina's looking good. And the other thing that jumps off the page is the degree to which Democrats have just poured money into certain races without moving the dial at all. Mike Bloomberg by himself threw $100 million into Florida, and we won Florida, if you'll recall, with Ron DeSantis, our wonderful governor here. We won that seat by about 0.41%.
Yeah, it was so close.
Ago. This year, Trump is winning Florida by 45 points. It is going to be a staggering difference. And remember, 20 years ago, Bush won Florida by 537 votes. So we're actually moving where they were telling us, after the hurricane, Puerto Ricans are going to turn Florida deep blue, all these different things. No, in point of fact, we're seeing Florida actually move deeper red. So that's remarkable. We're seeing money not work here. Money didn't work against Lindsey Graham, who has handily put that Senate race away, contrary to all of the predictions. And also in Texas, you see all of this outside money from Silicon Valley in particular flow in to try to flip the Texas House and thus control congressional redistricting next year. That has fallen flat. So a lot of the things that the Democrats have told everybody, this will be, this is immutable, this is destiny, were just about as inevitable as Hillary Clinton being president 2 different times. And that Rod, is really the remarkable thing of the night.
There's a couple of things that have really stood out to me so far. It's just been remarkable. One is this racial divide that the Democrats always try and push. They always try and portray it. And you see President Trump breaking through. And I mean, I can't wait to listen to the folks try to explain how a racist President Trump can bring Hispanics into the fold, or a racist President Trump can increase the black vote and black turnout. And it's because he just pushes policies. He pushes conservative ideals and doesn't play this identity politics. One of the things that stood out to me, I just wanted to bring this up because I was watching, Fox before the elections, the results started coming in. And one of the things that frustrated me so much was there, as people were preparing, you saw these images of buildings being boarded up and all of this stuff. And it's one thing to be fair and balanced, but one thing that always gets me, and especially I've been seeing it more in Fox, is they try to be balanced when the situation is actually not balanced. It's an artificial
Right.
balance. I don't know
Exactly.
how many times I saw today where the host, the guests, of course, if they're doing Republican and Democrat, but also the host were trying to portray that this threat of violence is somehow balanced, that there's an equal fear of white supremacists running amok as there is Black Lives Matter, as if these people are boarding up because of white supremacy. It's just amazing, and I was wondering if you've caught on to that.
Oh yeah, that's been just mind-boggling all year. It's or honestly, in some ways, just more annoying. The
Right.
idea that you have Klansmen running around is just moronic. If you were to do a study, as some have, you would be lucky to find 3,000 Klansmen in the entire United States. But we see Antifa and BLM burning down major cities all across this nation, and truly, and this has been going on for months. And if you see Trump do as well in Pennsylvania as I hope he does, and of course that's a mess because John Roberts sold us out again on a matter that is just a simple constitutional issue. States do not have the right to change the date of a federal election.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know how that's anything but a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, they're going to keep voting in Pennsylvania for 3 days. We'll see what that looks like. Nevertheless, if we win in Pennsylvania, it is probably in no small part due to the fact that Antifa is burning down Philly.
Right.
And, if we have a shot at Minnesota, it's in part because all of this started in Minnesota. How many people, supposedly all these suburban moms who are abandoning Trump, which, by the way, the numbers are not indicating tonight, how many of them really think that they're better off with a government that defunds the police, doesn't let them protect their own children, and burns down their houses? That just doesn't compute. So I think the Democrats, as in 1968, are learning the lesson that rioting actually doesn't pay off for them. And I think we're going to see a Trump win for exactly that reason, not only that reason, but it wasn't only that reason in 1968 either.
Right. And some of the demographic studies that they were coming back with, it just shows how pollsters are going to be out of jobs after this election because they were talking about how they were estimating that Joe Biden was up 15% among seniors in Florida, where you are. And I mean, I,
Which was
I,
idiotic to start with.
it
I
was
don't know how
idiotic
they
to
published that with a straight face.
exactly. And yet this is what plays. This is what they push. And I know it's to influence the outcome. It is to influence the outcome. They talk about voter suppression. When you get hammered with these polls for months and months and months, that's gotta just, hurt the confidence and hurt the turnout. And luckily, what they didn't count on, I think, was President Trump in these last 4 or 5 weeks of the campaign absolutely kick it in and just show that, hey, you know, you couldn't get yourself to stay home because he's not staying home. He's out there 5 or 6 events in one day. I mean, what did you think of the close of the campaign the last couple of weeks?
Oh, it's been incredible. The man has more energy than the Energizer Bunny. He has more energy than the Terminator. It's unbelievable. Who has ever seen a candidate campaign like this? And meanwhile, Joe Biden is hiding in his basement. Who believes this man has the energy to do anything? And the Democrats, admittedly, don't care because what we've seen in poll after poll is that the number of Republican voters who are voting for Trump as opposed to against Biden is overwhelming. In fact, one poll had that number at 90% of Trump's voters voting for him versus only 43% of Biden's voters voting for Biden rather than against Trump. Well, of course, he's turning out 12 people at a rally while Trump is turning out 57,000 in Pennsylvania. So, again, that kind of turnout in Pennsylvania is suggestive of, rioting in Philly plus Biden's absolute promise to shut down the oil and gas industry, conspiring to give us another win in Pennsylvania. And I think that's where we're headed, despite what will be blatant cheating. And
Oh
the
yeah,
polling has
absolutely.
been, as you have just suggested, suppression polling. I
Hmm.
would go you one further. The betting markets have been the same. And you saw that 4 years ago in Brexit. Up until the polls closed and the votes started being counted. In the Brexit referendum, the betting markets had leave at 15% and
Oh
remain at
wow.
85%. And in the span of a 30-minute period after the votes began to be counted, we saw that flip around to roughly 85-15 the other direction. They were rigged, they were rigged, they were rigged. And there were news accounts that demonstrated how that happened. And of course, the Tory government was for Remain, and so they didn't pursue it. Well, likewise here, you've seen the betting markets be ridiculously skewed toward Biden, and it just hasn't comported with reality. These are thin
Right.
markets. They're easy to influence with somebody who's willing to spend the kind of money that a guy like, for instance, Mike Bloomberg just dropped in Florida. So, if I'm not accusing anybody, but if Bloomberg or Soros or a dozen others wanted to influence your vote by making the betting markets look like Biden must win, it's
Right.
easy to do. And sure enough, tonight, when he started winning Florida, started winning Georgia, started winning North Carolina, look what happened. The betting markets flipped around just like they did in 2016 in the Brexit referendum.
Absolutely. So what do you think about this with this polling? And you've got organizations, what is it, like 538 with the, silver and the, these statisticians that are supposed to be so brilliant. And they were giving Biden all through the summer like a 90+% chance of winning. So what is their deal? I mean, these pollsters are getting it wrong over and over again. We see what's happening with the Trump voters. I mean, is it just that Trump voters aren't responding, or what's your theory on that?
Nate Silver is a hack. I
Yeah.
mean, we learned that in 2016. We've learned that since. It is pathetic. He has tremendous talent. He's a gifted individual, and he's using his stuff for the dark side because, hey, he's on that team. And all of these guys are in the propaganda and advocacy business now. They're not in the business of actually reporting straight numbers. We've been seeing that now for over 4 years. I am disturbed by that, but less disturbed than I might be because honestly, the media in this country has been biased for a very long time. And the beauty of what has happened since roughly 2015 is that people are waking up to it. And one recent poll I saw showed that barely a third of Americans now believe that the media is unbiased. They know they're being lied to. They know that what they hear cannot be trusted. And honestly, that's a wonderful development because if they aren't trustworthy, the worst thing in the world you can do is trust them. So at least if people catch on, there's an opportunity for a shakeout. And I don't know exactly what that looks like. Honestly, I don't have a problem with MSNBC being who they are. I mean,
Hmm.
they say they're liberal and they're liberal. I don't
Right.
have a problem with OAN being conservative. Hey, we're conservative. That's much more honest than all these guys who pretend to be neutral, but in reality are advocating. And I am very, very pleased to see that change. I think if it continues developing the way it is, there's a possibility that we could have a better media by the end of the decade.
Yeah, I think something needs to be restructured because I'm just like you. It's like I don't mind MSNBC being out there. I mean, they are what they are and everybody knows it. But it's this sham that they try and pull on the American people saying that there's unbiased media out there where we see the stories we saw with Hunter Biden, we saw the non-reporting of the GDP growth. We see no questions whatsoever in any debate asked about foreign policy and the achievements of the Trump administration on ISIS and Israel and other negotiations, trade, nothing like that at all. So they can influence by coverage or lack of coverage, and something has got to change going out there. So I understand that Ohio has been called for President Trump.
Yes,
What is going on
Ohio
with
just went for Trump.
Arizona?
And that's wonderful. And I saw just a little bit about Arizona just before we went on air, and I know Fox called it for Biden. I don't know if anybody else has yet. But the Ohio win is huge, and as you know, no Republican in modern times has won the presidency without winning Ohio. Uh, that is indicative of good things probably across the border in Pennsylvania. As you know, both, I guess not everybody realizes anymore, but Ohio and Pennsylvania are the birthplaces of the oil and gas industry. They remain major oil and gas states in part thanks to fracking. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have absolutely promised to destroy that industry, just as Barack Obama promised to destroy coal. This is utterly self defeating. I mean, I understand the environmentalist argument against coal a little bit better, although I still think it's whack. But natural gas has caused, which by the way, we would not have in abundance without fracking, has caused America alone among the industrialized nations to see its carbon footprint drop precipitously over the past several years. Why would
Right.
environmentalists ever be against fracking when it is actually achieving what they want? But of course, we know the answer to that. It's the same
Yeah.
reason they're against nuclear. They don't actually care about reducing anybody's carbon footprint. They care about reducing the economic output of the United States, strapping us down like Gulliver in Lilliput, and
Yep.
advancing a globalist agenda in which China dominates the world. That's really what they're after, and no one more so than Joe Biden, who has been so completely compromised through his son's business dealings, which are nothing but bribes to him, that an administration of Biden, so long as he remains president and Harris isn't, is just basically going to be a puppet of the Chinese Communist Party in exactly the way that Democrats spent 4 years projecting onto Donald Trump and pretending that he was a puppet of Russia. Don't forget anyone that Bob Mueller found not one shred of evidence of any person involved with Donald Trump having
Exactly.
any dealings with the Russians. And yet we now know that Hunter Biden received millions of dollars from a close personal friend of Vladimir Putin. This is not disputed. So,
Right.
so we're dealing with a serious, serious issue there. And it does touch on every one of these issues. China is better served, Russia is better served, Venezuela is better served, Iran is better served if America is no longer energy independent, which it is for the first time since 1947, and if it is exporting not energy, but $700 billion a year to its enemies to pay for energy that it no longer produces.
Yeah, I mean, this one of the things I think President Trump mentioned it briefly in the second debate was lowering our carbon footprint. It's like you don't need government intervention when people are doing it, when corporations are doing it, when we're doing it without these Paris Accords. And exactly what you said, this is not about cleaning up the environment. It's about handcuffing the United States and reducing its economic power around the world for this globalist agenda and socialist power grab within the United States. As far as the electoral map and for tonight, how things are going, how do you see the rest of the states playing out? What's President Trump's path to victory?
Well, again, having won Ohio, which is really key. We had to win Ohio. I don't think there was a lot of doubt that we would, but it's still a big win. Having won that, we are well positioned, I think, for the kind of numbers that Robert Cahaley has been reporting and that Democracy Institute has been reporting in terms of possible wins in Pennsylvania, Michigan, maybe Wisconsin, maybe Minnesota. Don't know if those will come to pass. Iowa's looking strong. Joni Ernst is looking strong. Tom Tillis looks to be a winner. We'll probably lose McSally. We lost Gardner. We just picked up Tuberville. John James is looking strong, so we may balance that. But when you get down to it, again, Pennsylvania has leftists burning down Philly, has the oil and gas industry under threat. You have cops being defunded, all of these police unions actually endorsing Donald Trump. Union workers in all of the states that we have dealt with so far have clearly moved in the direction of Trump and the Republican Party, as they should. That bodes well for Michigan. I think we're looking pretty strong, actually,
Yeah.
in those Rust Belt states. And if that spills over to Wisconsin and Minnesota, as I hope it does, that'll be great. If it doesn't, a win in Michigan, Pennsylvania actually puts us in a pretty strong position. And
Yeah.
and I still think all those states are winnable, but and Nevada could be winnable too. But if Trump does well in those two states, I think you not only have the basis for a win, I think you have the basis for a realignment that is much browner,
Hmm.
much more working class, much more diverse, and actually is leading toward the kind of future politically that the Democrats have arrogated to themselves for the last 20 years, pretending that they owned all these people.
Right.
Democrats
Right.
are all about owning people, that's their history. And it turns out that the people they like to own don't like to be owned. I think that's been the best thing that's come out of South Florida in particular tonight.
Right. Yeah. I love the idea of this realignment, and I totally agree. You see blue collar workers coming out realizing that President Trump relates to them. This billionaire guy, he actually relates to them. He's not a politician. They don't trust government, they don't trust the media, and he's doing policies that help them. My initial prediction, which I talked about on my Saturday show, was anywhere from 296 to 322. And if Arizona stays the way this is, we bring in Minnesota instead. It's almost a 1-to-1 swap. I think it's 10
Yeah,
versus
exactly.
11, right? So,
Yeah.
so we don't lose any ground there if we pick up Minnesota, which we should because of Minneapolis and because of what you said. I really like what's going on in Michigan with James to give
I
a
do
good
too.
run at it 2 years ago, to come right back. And, in our analysis of Senate races, where you saw some of these that might go down, like Colorado and Arizona, what a nice pickup in Michigan.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, breaking news, they just called Texas for Trump. That wasn't exactly in doubt, I think, by sane people, although, the media pundits and pollsters have been telling us Texas is in play. Uh,
Oh,
but
right. Yeah.
yes, I think we're moving toward a very, very different Republican Party, which is as it ought to be. We are the party of entrepreneurs. We're the party of small business owners. We're the party of working men and women. We're the party of honestly capitalists. And
Yeah.
capitalism, as we have all sadly learned, is not the philosophy of big business. Not at all. Big business benefits by spending its large profits to buy government officials to smash their competition over the head with regulations. It's small businesses, it's working men who are trying to get ahead and build a better future for their kids. Those are the people who believe in free markets and equality of opportunity rather than equality of outcome. And there is a real opportunity now that we have shed the rhino beltway establishment, and we have elevated this new breed of Republicans that has come into its own with Donald Trump. There's a real opportunity for us to be a scrappy, upstart, populist, conservative party that actually stands for the vast majority of Americans. That is a message, as in Florida 2 years ago, when the margin of victory for Ron DeSantis was poor black parents who were defending their school voucher for their child who would otherwise be in a terrible public school, but because of Republican policies was able to go to a good private school and have a future. Likewise, and here's Donald Trump promising that, the school
Right.
choice is the civil rights issue of our era, and he's going to make sure every kid in America has a voucher. Okay, there's an opportunity here for us to build a new coalition that wins America in the long term, and all of this demography is destiny racist nonsense can go right out the window, and we can build a party that is broadly representative of most Americans and against the elitists that populate the coasts.
Right, absolutely. Hey, Rod, I got to jump in here just real quick, folks. I just want to give you a reminder of this contest that we've been having. If you are new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And when you do, please hit that bell so you'll be notified. We're making our push, as I said, for 100,000 subscribers by Election Day. 100K by Election Day. Today's Election Day. I started this in April with like 60,000 members, 60,000 subscribers. We need 90. We need 90 members. That's it. 90 new subscribers, and we can do it with your help. That's all we need for 100,000 subscribers. So tell your friends, get on the phone, let them know. I think we can do this. We still have a few hours to go. But okay, so Rod, back to this now. We've got, I guess, Pennsylvania. They're not going to call anything tonight. We've got Georgia, they decided to go to sleep tonight rather than count ballots and fix water mains or whatever. You know, it's just really crazy. But all right, so we pick up hopefully Minnesota. We swap that out for Arizona. It still kind of comes down to what you said, the Rust Belt. And the thing I like, the thing that makes me confident is that President Trump is basically holding serve everywhere except Arizona. And he built himself a cushion last time where we could afford 2 out of 3 losses up there. So if we can get a solid Pennsylvania and Michigan to counteract this Arizona, we got it. We've got it for President Trump.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And actually, if Trump wins Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina, and Wisconsin, he's at 273. So he doesn't actually need Pennsylvania if he can line that up. And of course, you know, he may not line that up because he may not win Minnesota, he might not win several of those. But I think he has multiple ways to win. And Biden's path to victory is looking pretty elusive at the moment. But even if somehow Biden eked out a win, I mean, there is a real danger in that. He's absolutely going to try to pack the Supreme Court. He's absolutely going to try to abolish the Electoral College. He's absolutely going to try to reinterpret the First Amendment out of existence. He's going to raise your taxes through the roof. He's going to kill the recovery. He's going to put you in not just a mask, but a lockdown for the next 2 years, like Rahm Emanuel's big brother Ezekiel has been preaching. He's, of course, the architect of Obamacare. It would be catastrophic to lose this election. Right. However, what we have seen in terms of just the demographic trends tonight is so encouraging that even if Biden were to win, if we could stave off some of the worst of that, if maybe we hold on to the Senate and we can just block legislation, if we could achieve that, a Biden win might be so onerous to some of these people, so obnoxious to some of them, that we come back in 4 years with an even stronger coalition. If I were a Democrat tonight, I would be going through multiple boxes of Depends.
Right. Yeah, because, and that's the thing, is that this coalition is lasting. You know, this isn't one built off these interest groups or identity politics. It's people coming together for a better future. And they say, you know, we can work. It doesn't matter our skin color. We want to be the rich guy. That means we want to succeed. We want to work hard at this job so that we could possibly start our own company and make payroll for other people. And it's just a growing coalition. And I completely agree that we are on the path to that. We saw it in the demographics with the blacks, Hispanics. It's just a really good sign. I think President Trump's going to pull this out, but I just hate how the media cover these things election after election after election, partly for ratings to keep people hanging on. But give me a break when we want to know what's up here. So what do you think? We'll wrap up, but this first term, President's first term, what do you think were the highlights, the major accomplishments that stand out to you?
Well, Wall Street Journal ran an article a few days ago saying Trump has already won. And the idea of it was not that he was necessarily going to win the election, but that he has completely changed the country in 4 years. You have meaningfully altered the courts in fundamental ways, partly because Obama just, for whatever reason, I don't know, laziness, foolishness, something, left us 128 judicial vacancies. So Donald Trump is able to come in and appoint constitutionalist judges by the bushel basket, working with the Federalist Society in a way that the Bushes never did by any stretch of the imagination, and really giving us some amazing judges all across the country. If Donald Trump wins re-election tonight, which I think he will, and if we hold the Senate, which I think we will, and we can hold the Senate again in 2 years, we are on on track, I should say, numerically, to flip every single court of appeals in the United States conservative by the end of 2024. That is breathtaking. So that's the biggest single thing. Trump has made a phenomenal difference in foreign policy,
Yep.
just putting America first in the most literal way. They tried to make that into some kind of Nazi thing, which was just
Right.
inconceivably stupid 4 years ago. But no, just the American president should represent the people who voted for the American president, not the people who voted for the British prime minister or for the general secretary of the Communist Party of China. He should actually negotiate deals that represent the interests of Americans. And he has. And you've seen tonight the Chinese yuan is crashing
Yes.
in the
Yep.
futures
Saw
market
that.
because they know the tariffs are here to stay. They're going to have to actually make a deal that is fair to both parties instead of just rape and pillage the Americans again, especially with a Joe Biden who is just their puppet, just bought and paid for. So that has been a big change. He has caused NATO to actually step up and carry some of its own weight. He's brought peace in the Middle East. I've lost count of how many Nobel Prize nominations he's received because we're looking at three Arab-Israeli peace treaties. In the history of Arab-Israeli peace treaties before 2 months ago, there had been two.
Right.
Donald Trump just pulled off three. We're about to have Saudi Arabia sign a peace treaty with Israel, which is just an earthquake. And that is forming into a military alliance against the wrongdoers in Iran and Syria, and of course, Hamas in
Hmm.
Gaza. That's an earthquake. Peace is breaking out. We're ending the endless wars. We've brought down taxes. We've brought down regulations, slashed regulations. In his first year in office, he slashed 22 regulations for every one new one enacted. Of course, business is booming. Of course, manufacturing is coming back. Of course, people are wanting to do business. And we've actually reached a point pre-COVID where we had the lowest Black unemployment in history, the lowest Hispanic unemployment in history,
Yep.
the lowest female unemployment in history. We actually, at one point, immediately before the lockdowns, had over 1 million more jobs seeking to be filled than there were workers to fill them. This has never happened in American history, and you can thank Donald Trump for all of that. So even if he should lose, it's one of the most remarkable 4 years in modern times. And if he doesn't get another 4 year term, it is absolutely a travesty. With that additional 4 year term, I think Donald Trump could actually be the first two-term president in modern times to have a successful second term. And that
Yeah.
would be truly remarkable.
I absolutely agree. I mean, as a conservative and someone whose conservatism, really doesn't extend past the border, I'm very much an America firster. I've just been so impressed with this first term as far as what he's done on taxes and foreign policy and trade and border security and regulations and on and on and on, and taking on the media, because that was always one of my biggest frustrations with Republicans in general is they
Absolutely.
always back down. I mean, Romney didn't do anything, and now you got a guy that take him on. The fallout from that. I was on a station earlier today. The fallout from that obviously is that the media are going to attack. They're going to come back and attack this guy that they used to be in love with, all because it's like, whoa, they don't. He's standing up to us. I can't believe it. But I think he's going to win tonight. It looks pretty good. And Rod, I appreciate you so much for being with us to kind of go over the state of affairs and look at these races. I'm really confident that we can hold on to the Senate now, and there's our stopgap. But President Trump pulls it out, as I think he will. I think this second term could really, really be good.
I really agree, and I'm really excited about where we're going, win or lose, but especially win. This is a turning point in American history, a real opportunity for us to put to bed the racism that has become the dominant theme of the Democratic Party, not for the first time in its history, and an opportunity to piece together a broad, multi-ethnic, multi-racial, multi-gendered coalition of people who just love their country and love their kids and love their neighbors and want to have equality, not of outcome, but of
Right.
opportunity. That is an earthquake, and that really could change America for the better. That could be a new birth of freedom that we could see come to pass in this decade and then dominate, honestly, the rest of your and my lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Rod, I got to get you on a Saturday show where we could really dive into policy and really talk about this. We'll plan on that for sure. But thanks for joining me this evening.
Wonderful. Glad to be here and love to do the show anytime.
All right, we'll see you, Rod.
Wonderful.
All right, folks, that was Rod Martin. Like I said, the moment I met him 20 years ago, we've stayed in touch. He's a great analyst, great on policy and with this election. I'm going to just jump in and look at more of these states, how things are going. I stick with my prediction. The 296 to 322 range will lower that because of Arizona. But President Trump has built a solid coalition, folks. He's looking good in Pennsylvania. He's looking good in Michigan. They called Ohio for him. It's a lot of good things coming tonight. And you could see from the reaction of the Biden folks earlier in this evening when you have this Juan Williams and Donna Brazile just trying to speak nonsense about states that they say are in play that were never in play. It's so bogus, but that's what they do with the commentary, with the polling. It's all to influence. They talk about voter suppression. Those elements right there are the real voter suppression, because when you hear bad news over and over again, you start to believe it. And when the media just say the same thing, when they don't report any of this stuff, look at the accomplishments that Rod was listing, that I was listing for President Trump, and most people don't hear about any of it because of the media blackout. And wow, did we see it firsthand, up close and personal with Hunter Biden? That's just one story, but it really rose because of Facebook and Twitter's blackouts. But there's a whole lot of issues out there, folks, that people don't get the full story. They don't get the full idea. And the polling as well has been trying to influence that. But folks, thanks for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate it. I love this kind of analysis. I'm going to look at this. We've got the 13-minute news hour regular edition tomorrow, 11:45 Central. We'll go over more of the results. I'll give you an update on what happened overnight. But again, please subscribe, folks. We're almost there to our goal of 100,000 subscribers. We're going to get to it. We're going to get to it the next day or so, but it would be really cool if we could do it overnight. So please subscribe. Please tell your friends, and we'll see you tomorrow. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.